Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young girl named Adana. She had no parents. Her mother died the same day she was born, and no one knew who her father was. She lived with her mother's only brother, Okeke, and his wife, Ukamaka, who treated her badly. Okeke and Ukamaka always told Adanna that her mother gave birth to her without a husband because she slept around with different men. They told her that she was a child of bad luck because her mother died while giving birth to her. They never showed her love, only hatred. They made her work from morning till night. Even when Adana did nothing wrong, Okeke and Ukamaka still found a reason to beat her. Adana cried every day, but no one in the house cared. People in the village saw what was happening. They saw how thin Adana was, how her body had marks from beatings, and how sad she always looked. Some kind people went to Okeke and told him to treat her well because she was his own sister's child. But Okeke did not listen. He became angry and told them to mind their businesses. He said Adana was his responsibility and he would treat her how he wanted. One hot afternoon, Adana was walking back home from the stream. She carried a heavy pot full of water on her head. Her body felt weak and her legs were tired. She was not feeling well, but she had no choice. She had to fetch water because if she did not, her uncle Okeke and his wife would beat her. As she walked slowly, she suddenly heard fast footsteps behind her. Before she could turn, a sharp pain struck her back. It was her uncle Okeke. He was holding a long cane and beating her. The heavy pot slipped from her head and fell to the ground, breaking into pieces. Okeke became even more angry. He pointed at the broken pot and shouted at Adana. He said she was a useless child who wasted his things. He said she had stayed too long at the stream, so he had come to find her and beat the laziness out of her. Adana wanted to tell him that she was sick, but before she could speak, another stroke of the cane landed on her back. She cried out in pain, but Okeke did not stop. Some villagers were passing by and saw what was happening. They stopped and looked at Adana with pity. They had always known that Okeke and his wife treated her badly, but this time they saw it with their own eyes. One of the men, Agumba, felt anger rise in his heart. He stepped forward, pulled Adana away from Okeke, and stood between them. Agumba had heard stories of how Adana suffered, and now he had seen the truth. He told Okeke that he would take Adana away from him since he could not take good care of her. Okeke shouted at Agumba to leave them alone, but Agumba refused. The two men fought, and soon Okeke fell to the ground, beaten and ashamed. Agumba took Adana to his home, telling her that she would no longer suffer as she did in her uncle's house. Adana followed him quietly, her heart filled with both fear and hope. She did not know what life in his house would be like, but she prayed it would be better than what she had left behind. When they reached Agumba's compound, his wife, Norma, was sitting outside. As soon as she saw them, her face changed. She did not like the sight of Adana and felt anger rise in her heart. She did not want another mouth to feed, especially not a girl whose mother had brought shame to her family by having a child without a husband. Norma refused to welcome Adana. She told Agumba to take the girl back to wherever he had brought her from. But Agumba told his wife that it was his home and he could bring in whoever he wanted. Norma felt powerless at that moment, but inside she was boiling with anger. She made up her mind that if her husband would not send the girl away, she would make life very hard for her. At evening, Agumba's two children, Ugonna and Urema, returned home. They saw their mother sitting with a frown on her face and knew something was wrong. When they asked what had happened, she told them everything. She said their father had brought Adana into their home, a girl whose mother had died after giving birth to her in shame. Ugonna, her son, did not see anything wrong with what his father had done. He had seen Adana many times before. He knew how her uncle and his wife treated her badly, and he had heard people talk about her suffering. Ugonna felt that it was not Adana's fault that her mother had died or that she was born without a father. He believed that she did not deserve to suffer for something she had no control over. To him, his father had done a good thing by taking her in. But Urema, his younger sister, did not feel the same way. She agreed with their mother that Adana should not be in their home. Urema decided to stand with her mother and do whatever it took to make Adana unhappy. Agumba's house was no longer peaceful. Every day there was trouble. Agumba and his son, Ugonna, treated Adana with kindness. They gave her food, spoke to her nicely, and made sure she was not suffering. But Norma and her daughter, Urema, made her work from morning till night. They gave her little food and spoke to her with harsh words. The house was always full of quarrels. Agumba and his wife argued all the time because of Adana. One day, Agumba became so angry that he told Norma that if she did not stop maltreating Adana, he would send her away from his house. Norma felt insulted. She could not believe that her husband threatened to throw her out because of Adana. That night, when everyone was sleeping, Norma and Urema quietly left their hut. Walking carefully, they went to the small hut where Adana was sleeping. They shook her awake. Adana opened her eyes and saw them standing over her. She was afraid but did not say anything. Norma and Urema led her out of the compound. They walked until they reached the small path that led to the forest. They stopped and pointed into the darkness. They told Adana to go and never come back. Adana's heart was beating fast. She looked at them, hoping they would change their minds, but their faces were hard. She knew she had no choice. Slowly, she turned and walked into the darkness. The following morning, Agumba and his son noticed that Adana was not at home. Agumba asked his wife about Adana, but Norma said she was not Adana's guardian and Adana's whereabouts was not her business. Many days passed, but no one saw Adana. People in the village talked about her disappearance. Some wondered if she had run away, while others feared something bad had happened to her. Agumba and his son Ugonna looked for her everywhere, but no one knew where she was. Then, one morning, a young girl came to Agumba's compound. She wore fine clothes and beautiful beads. Her skin was smooth and her hair was neatly made. She looked fresh and happy. Everyone stared at her in shock. The girl was Adana. This was not the same Adana they had known. The Adana they remembered always wore old, torn clothes. She was always sad and tired. But now she looked like the daughter of a rich man. Agumba was surprised. He wanted to know where she had been. Adana began to tell her story. She said that on the night she disappeared, Norma and Urema came to her hut while she was sleeping. They woke her up and told her to follow them. She told Agumba how they took her to the path that led to the forest and told her to go and never come back. She said she walked for a long time without food and water and became too weak and fainted. When she opened her eyes, she saw herself in a beautiful hut lying on a soft mat. A kind man had found her in the forest and carried her to his hut. He and his wife had no children, so when they saw Adana, they took her as their daughter. From that day, Adana lived happily with them. When Agumba heard what Adana said, he became very angry. His heart was heavy with pain because he could not believe that his own wife and daughter had done such a wicked thing to an innocent girl. Without wasting time, he went inside the hut, carried all of Norma's clothes and belongings, and threw them outside. He pointed at the door and told Norma and Urema to leave his house at once. Norma fell to the ground, crying bitterly. She begged Agumba not to send her away. Her voice was full of remorse as she admitted that she had been wrong. She said she was afraid that Adanna was a child of bad luck and did not want her to bring misfortune to their home. Urema stood beside her mother with tears in her eyes. She looked down at the ground, ashamed of what she had done. She also begged her father to forgive her. Ogonna told his father that everyone makes mistakes and sometimes people act out of fear and ignorance. He pleaded with his father to forgive them so that their family would not be torn apart. Adanna too pleaded with Agumba to let go of his anger and forgive them, that she did not want anger and division in his family because of her. With a deep sigh, Agumba forgave Norma and Urema. He was happy that Adanna had found a good home where she was treated well. That alone gave him peace of mind. So he forgave them, and everyone was happy again.